All right, so we can move on now. There's an important concept here, which is that Git is a distributed version control system. So everyone working on the project has a copy of the repository, and everyone can always edit every file. And so you'll notice when I've run all of these commands, I've just been editing things in this .git directory. And I'm not actually interacting with any centralized server or anything. I'm just modifying some files. So this is a concept that can be a bit tough to understand for new Git users, which is that there's no mechanism in place to prevent users from modifying the same parts of the project at the same time. You can imagine if I were collaborating with some other person, they could also edit hello, the text file, on their computer and make commits, and we'd have different versions of this project now. So unlike other version control systems where you need to check out and check in files with the central server, in Git, you can just do whatever you want on your local copy of this repository. And then later on, you might need to manage conflicts, but we'll get into that. It's not as chaotic or as scary as it sounds. And in Git, I mentioned, we'll talk about that main text a little bit later, and here we are. This is what's called a branch. And branches allow a project to progress in different independent directions simultaneously. So in practice, that graph that I showed, that get log command, is rarely just a straight line. So this is very, very helpful when you're working with a lot of people. Each person can go and create a branch and not interfere with each other, and then later on you can just combine all of your changes, which we'll also see a bit later. So software developers often use these branches for new features, which they then merge into the main branch. And this way, the main branch remains stable while the developers are working on substantial changes. So every version of the project doesn't have to be like the latest and greatest completely functional version. Only the ones on a particular branch. That's a typical workflow. As I mentioned, you can combine branches, so take two branches back into one or more than two branches, and this is what's called a merge. So a merge combines commits from two or more branches into a new commit, and that commit is on a specific branch. Another strategy that people use with branches it's called a rebase, and a rebase will change the parent of a commit, and it also allows you to do some other fancy tricks like combine or modify commits. But there's an important caveat here, which is that this can edit the history of a project. And if you've already shared your project, in other words, your commits with other people, such as uploading them on a remote repository, this is generally not recommended because then people will look at your updates and they'll say, hey, my repository doesn't match that. Where did this commit come from? And then they have to work out how it changed. And it's better to keep the history that you've already shared with people intact. You can force an update on a remote repository, but I won't get into that on this presentation. Just know that if you ever run into something like this, you might need to go do some research. So we won't actually cover rebasing in the hands-on portion, but we'll use merges when we work with multiple branches instead. Now, as I mentioned, each user, each person working on a repository individually on their local version can edit whatever they want, really. And you can even edit things on different branches that affect the same part of the repository yourself. This doesn't necessarily imply that you need to be working with someone else to create a conflict, but a conflict in Git can occur when you have information in two places that conflicts, and Git doesn't want to lose any information, so instead it punts it back to you and it says, hey, I can't automatically handle this merge or some other operation, right? You need to fix this. Tell me how this should be merged or how I should resolve this conflict, and then I can proceed as normal. So this isn't actually an indication that you've done something wrong. This happens to basically everyone working with branches and everyone working with multiple people, I'd say, on a large project at least. And this conflict is between versions, not between people. And really, Git is not trying to make your life difficult. It's trying to prevent you from losing any information or from overwriting someone else's work, which you can imagine they probably wouldn't be too happy about. So you can see an example of this. As I mentioned, this can happen when you're merging branches. So if you modify two parts or on two branches, the same part of the file, the same part of the project on two separate branches, excuse me, and then you try and combine those back into a single version, you can run into conflicts. So I have an example here. Let's say you have a file with the contents hello world initially. You create two versions. So you have this red branch and then this blue branch on the bottom still. And let's say you make a modification on each of these. So you have two separate commits. They're on two different branches. They can exist simultaneously. So we have one that says hello Utah and hello SLC. And then later on, you want to combine those back into a single branch. Well, Git will look at this and say, one of these says hello Utah, one of these says hello SLC. I don't know what you want me to do with this. So you need to resolve this, and then we can go from there. I'll note just briefly that you can also merge multiple branches at the same time. Of course, this can lead to a lot of conflicts, and this is sometimes called an octopus merge. In lieu of an octopus merge, some Git users prefer to merge branches sequentially, and this will reduce the number of conflicts that need to be addressed at any given time. But you can do octopus merges if you know that all of your branches are compatible with each other and you won't have merge conflicts. And someone once did a 66-way merge in the Git source code. So they merged 66 branches at once. So a merge with a conflict will result in text that's added to the files with conflicts. And Git will add both versions of the text in the file on separate lines so you can pick one or write something new. And once you've resolved all of these conflicts, you can create a new commit. So we've seen this head text before, but we haven't yet explained this. I'll talk about this a bit more later. You can see there's one version on the top and one version on the bottom, and you can pick one and delete all of the extra text, or write your own and delete all of the extra text, right? So I could say hello, SLC, Utah, and that would be totally valid if I deleted all of this extra stuff. And then I can create a new commit, and that will be my merge. In that way, I'm telling Git, hey, I've looked at this, I've manually verified that this is how I actually want it to be, and I've compared these versions, and this is like something that I'm happy with in the end for combining these versions. So we've seen branches a bit with this notion of merge conflicts. So now we'll look at how we actually handle branches, how we manage branches. So to check which branch you're on, you can run the command git branch, which will list branches and show an asterisk next to the current one. You can create and switch to a branch with git switch-c and then the branch name, and then switch to an existing branch with git switch and the branch name. You can merge branches by switching to the branch you want to merge into, or the destination, and then you run git merge and the branch name you want to merge into that branch. So I see new users sometimes forget which branch to be on when merging. You need to be on the one where you want the new commit to appear. So the branch you're on when you perform the merge, is the branch to which the new commit will be added. So you can think of a merge as an extension of git commit. It's creating a new commit, but that commit has information from another branch as well. So the hands-on content for this is to create and switch to a new branch, edit files and commit changes on that new branch, switch back to your other branch, and then perform a merge to incorporate changes from that new branch into the old one. And then finally, can you cause and resolve a merge conflict? So this is a bit more involved than some of the other activities here. So I can create a new branch with git switch-c. I'll just call it literally new branch. Usually you'd want to use something that's a bit more descriptive about what you're actually doing on that branch. And then of course I can say git branch to see which ones are available and which one I'm currently on, which is green and marked with an asterisk. Now I can go in and edit hello, and maybe I'll say this is new content on a new branch. Alright, and now we can commit our changes. So first we'll git add hello, git commit, add some new content on a new branch. Okay, now I'm actually going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to skip ahead, and I'm going to try and cause a merge conflict so I don't have to do two separate merges. So right now I'm on this new dash branch, and if I do git log dash dash graph dash dash all, you can see there's content on the main branch and content on the new branch. And so I'm going to switch back to main. I'm going to try and replicate that diagram I had earlier with the hello SLC versus hello Utah. So if I git switch main, and then I go edit that hello file, you'll notice the text that I added is not there, and that's because it's only in a commit on that other branch, new branch, and I'm back on the main branch. So I can create a conflict by having separate versions of the file on different branches. Alright, so let's git add hello, git commit hello, add conflicting content on a different branch. Alright, so I've added a line underneath the line I already had on both branches, and then eventually I'll try and merge this. But let's first look again at the graph. So you can see now we've diverged. We have a commit on main and a commit on new branch that are both based on the same parent commit. And again, I've created conflicting content in each commit. So if I now tried to merge the content from new branch, remember I'm on the branch I want to create a new commit on, which is main. And if I run git merge new branch, I'm fully expecting there to be a merge conflict here. Automatic merge failed, fix conflicts, and then commit the result. Alright, so as I mentioned before, this will add text to the file with both versions. So you can see the one I'm on right now is this text. So this is the text from my current branch, and this is the text from the branch with the conflict, the one that I tried to merge in here. So I could go in and edit this. Let's just say I want to combine it, and I'm satisfied with that as the resolution of this merge, right? So now I can view the status. So this is marked as unmerged. I can add it to mark resolution. So I can say, yeah, this is resolved. Git add hello, git commit. So this has a default commit message here saying merge branch, new branch. So you can add text to this, but I'm satisfied with that. I'll say sure, save that. And now I've merged. And if I go look back at my log here, you can see that I have this divergence. I have two commits on separate branches. And then I've combined this commit from new branch back into the content in the main branch. So now we've looked at how to create commits, how to manage branches, how to merge branches, how to manage conflicts with merges. We're actually pretty quickly looking at some of the content that we need to use Git in practice. Like you could use Git with this information for your own projects just fine.